My name is Rikunze Jean Damascene. I'm a trainer at Apekitumba TSS. I'm going to briefly talk about the implementation of the competence-based curriculum, CBC, in TVET schools in Rwanda. The CBC is being implemented in all TVET schools in Rwanda since 2017. In order to implement the CBC, TVET trainers must have the required pedagogical documents. A trainer who is going to deliver a session must prepare a session plan. Before preparing a session plan, the trainer has to refer to the curriculum, to the chronogram, and to the scheme of work. The curriculum is developed by the Rwanda TVET Board, RTB, and it is for each trade per each level. It indicates the module code and title, the competence, the Rwanda qualification framework level, the number of credits, the sector and trade it is prepared for, type of module, whether it is complementary or specific, and the learning hours. The curriculum suggests the delivery modalities. It also presents the elements of competence and the performance criteria. It shows the learning outcomes, which are divided into indicative contents. The learning period for each learning outcome is also shown. At the end of a module which is specific, a typical summative assessment is planned. Here we have an example of a curriculum. It is for the sector of building and construction services. This is the curriculum for level 3 in the trade of the building construction. As we have talked about it, you can see the module code. The code is BDC BS301. You can see the title of the module. Here the module is building set out. You can see the competence. The competence here is set out a building. You can also see the level for which this module is designated. This one is for level 3 as I have just mentioned it. It has 7 credits. It also shows the sector. It shows the trade. It shows the type of module. It is a specific module. It shows the learning hours. This is supposed to be covered in 70 hours. You can also see the delivery modalities. This also shows the elements of competencies and performance criteria. Then we can see the learning outcomes, where each learning outcome is divided into indicative contents. And the time for each learning outcome is shown. For example, for this one, the first learning outcome is prepare tools, materials, and equipment. The learning hours for this learning outcome are 10. For example, we have the first indicative content. This first indicative content is identification of tools used for setting out. As we said, if a module is specific, it also has a typical or a sample summative assessment at the end. As I said, this module for level 3 is specific, so it has a summative assessment. You can see it at the end. This is the summative or integrated assessment. Since the curriculum is there, the chronogram is also needed and it is prepared referring to the curriculum. A chronogram is prepared by the Rwanda TVET Board, RTB, every year, basing on the school calendar, which is published by the Ministry of Education. The chronogram is prepared for each trade and it shows the sequence of modules and the weekly learning period for each module. It also indicates the type of each module, whether it is specific, general, or complementary. It provides the time for assessment as well. It is very important because it helps the trainers to know how the modules follow one another and when. Here we have an example of a chronogram. It is a chronogram designed for the sector of construction and building services. As we said, it shows the trade. Here the trade is public works. It shows the RQF level. Here it is for level 3. It shows the qualification title. For example, here we have the qualification title, which is TVET Certificate 3 in Public Works. It shows the academic year. Here, this one was for the 2022-2023 academic year. it shows the type or the module. For example, here it is separated in 3 parts. We have the part for specific competencies, the part for general competencies, and the part for complementary competencies. As we said, it shows the sequence of modules. It means how the module follow one another. For example, this one, in the first week, they have to start with the module of maintaining She at workplace, and it shows the number of periods for each week. They have to learn for 15 periods in this first week for this module, and of course, it shows the learning period for each module until we are at the end of the academic year. As we said, it also shows the period for assessments. For example, it shows when the comprehensive assessment will be done. It shows when to start each term and the weeks for each term. And finally, it is showing the period for assessments which are done at the end of the year. And of course, each module which is on the chronogram, you can see the total number of periods in which it has to be taught. When you have the chronogram and you have the curriculum and you know the calendar, you can now use them or refer to them and prepare a scheme of work. As we said, the curriculum and the chronogram are prepared by the Rwanda TVET board. But now the scheme of work is prepared by a trainer and it is prepared for each module. The trainer has to prepare a scheme of work referring to the curriculum and to the chronogram. The scheme of work is very important because of these reasons amongst many others. First, it guides the teaching, because all the session plans are based on it. It is also important as education authorities use the scheme of work to check the plan of logical sequence of instructional delivery. It helps to ensure continuity in case of transfer of a trainer. It also helps in strategic utilization of teaching aids and references materials. So it will help you to prepare them in advance. Here is a sample. It provides the school information. The school information contains the name of the school, the address. All this information is at the top. It also provides the qualification information. For example, here, this one was designed for the sector of ICT and multimedia. The trade is multimedia production. The qualification is TVET Certificate 3 in multimedia. It shows the level, of course. It also shows the module code and title. For example, you have MMPSE 301. This is the code for this module. And the name or title of the module is Sound Editing. All this information regarding the qualification, this includes the sector, the trade, the qualification title, RQF level, module code and title, are picked from the curriculum. The scheme of work also shows the date on which it was prepared. It shows the name of the trainer, it shows the academic year, it shows the term, it shows the learning hours, it shows the number of classes it has to be taught in. The number of hours and the term are also seen in the chronogram, and also the number of hours can be also seen in the curriculum. Apart from this part which provides the information, you have other parts. You have, for example, the delivery timeline. Here you have the column showing the weeks in which the module will be taught. We have the learning outcome. We have the duration for each learning outcome. We have the indicative contents. We have the column showing the learning activities. These are the activities that are done during the session delivery. We have the resources. These include equipment, tools, and materials that are used when the sessions of this module are being delivered. We have the part which shows the type of evidence to be collected for each learning outcome and each indicative content. We also have the learning place. The session can be delivered in different places depending on the type of the session. It can be in a classroom, it can be in a workshop, in a computer lab, or anywhere. So you have to indicate where each session will be delivered. We also have the part of observation. This is where you can put your observation to show whether the learning outcome or the indicative content was delivered and how it went. This observation can also be used by verifiers. The scheme of work shows also the terms in which it is delivered. As we know, a module can be taught in one term, can be taught in 2 terms, or in all the 3 terms. So that is why you have to show when it is delivered. And this is the information from the chronogram, where it shows when each module starts and the number of periods for each module. The scheme of work also gives the information about when the assessment will be done. When a trainer has done his or her scheme of work, you can now do a session plan. Session plan, of course, must be based on the scheme of work. We can simply say that a session plan is a detailed prior description of the learning session for a specific group of trainees or learners. It's like a roadmap which shows how to reach the set objectives. It is also prepared by a trainer. When preparing a session plan, a trainer has to refer to the scheme of work. A session plan is very important as it gives you, as a trainer, a clear sense of what you are trying to accomplish, how you are going to accomplish it, and how you know that you have accomplished it. The session plan has 3 main parts. Those are introduction, development or body, and the conclusion. The first part, which is the introduction, this is where you describe how you will introduce the session, including greetings, taking roll call or checking attendance, setting ground rules, introducing topic, explaining the set objectives. The second part of the session plan is the body or the development. This is the main stage as you describe how you will develop the session step by step, including facilitation techniques you will use, how to form the groups if you will form them, how to distribute tasks, how to monitor those tasks, work presentation, way of providing expert view, etc. The last part is the conclusion. This part describes how you will conclude the session, including summarizing the session, assessing and evaluating the session delivery process. This part of conclusion comprises 3 main parts, or we can call them sub-parts. The first is summary. In the summary, the trainer involves learners in summarizing the session by asking them some questions that reflect the objectives of the session. The trainees participate in that summary by answering to those questions asked by the trainer. The second part in the conclusion is the assessment. The assessment can be theoretical if the session is theoretical, or it can also be practical. The assessment can be a quiz which is done during the session, or it can be an assignment that will be done and submitted later. The third part, which is in the conclusion, is the evaluation. This is where the trainer involves trainees in evaluating the session delivery process. They talk about how the session was, what they appreciated, and what they wish should be improved in the next sessions. Here we have a typical session plan. It must, of course, provide the information about the school, which shows the school name and the address. It shows the sector, it shows the trade, it shows the level, the date, the name of the trainer, the school year, the term, the module, code, and title. For example, here, the title of the module is sound editing. It shows the learning outcome. For example, here, this session is for the second learning outcome, and the name of the learning outcome is edit audio sequences. It shows the indicative content, and it shows the topic of that day's session. This information regarding the sector, module code and title, learning outcome, indicative content are picked from the curriculum. The session plan must also show the period or the duration. For example, this one is supposed to be covered in 40 minutes. As the topic may be longer than these 40 minutes, that's why it also shows the range. Then it shows the set objectives, and as we said, it also shows the facilitation techniques. For example, this one, the technique that is supposed to be used here is the trainer guided. As we said, it has 3 main parts. It has the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And for each of those parts, the trainer has to show the resources that he or she will need. It must also be shown the duration for each part. For example, this is the introduction. For this one, the trainer had to greet the learners and check the attendance and set ground rules, of course, involving the learners in setting them. The trainer had to announce the topic of the session. The trainer had to state and explain the objectives of the session. The second part, which is the body or the development of this session plan, and this is the part which must be longer than other parts because it is in this part where learners learn new skills or knowledge. In this part of development or body, there are different steps. They depend on the facilitation technique. As this one had chosen to use the trainer guided, the first step was the demonstration. The second step was the imitation. This step 1 demonstration, the trainer had to demonstrate how to do the activity. The second part for imitation, the learners had to imitate. The third step is the correction and practicing. This is where learners have to apply what they have learned. And the last step here is the expert view, where the trainer provides more clarification on what they have learned and provide time for learners to ask any other clarification that they need. As I have just said, the number of steps or names of steps depend on the chosen facilitation technique. You can see the last part, which is the conclusion. As I said, it comprises 3 parts. It comprises the summary, where the trainer involves or engages learners in summarizing what they have learned by asking questions, and the learners respond to those questions. The other part in the conclusion is the assessment. This is why the trainer gives the assessment. As I had said it before, the assessment may be a quiz, it may be an assignment. For example, for this session, for this typical session, the quiz was given. The last part in the conclusion is the evaluation of the session. This is where the trainer asks how the session was, and the learners react by providing their appreciation or suggesting what should be improved next time. A session plan, as any other academic document, it must also show the reference. You have to show where you have picked what you are going to teach. This can include books, tutorials, internet. The session plan itself is not enough to deliver it, but we need other resources. That's why you need to have the appendices with your session plan, such as task sheets. You may need to have a PowerPoint, assessment. This may be a quiz or an assignment. You must have the handout. So these are some of the appendices that are needed to be with the session plan, so as you can be ready to deliver it. We have been talking about the required pedagogical documents that every trainer should have before entering a class. So I encourage every trainer to be always with all these documents before starting delivering a session. I thank you very much for being with us in this part where we were explaining the main documents that are required before delivering a session. I would like to invite you to watch a video on practical session delivery. Thank you.